Yeah, let's. I don't care if we break it.
Well, I don't want
It's
to.
destructive testing.
I don't want to go flying.
Okay, we're back. It's another day. It's actually a couple of days later. What happened was when we did this layup, can you see the layup? When we did this layup, I screwed it up because of, I always work out of gallon cans. So I was working out of smaller cans. I used this pump set, these things. I used it incorrectly. Didn't read the instructions. You know how guys don't read instructions. Well, I didn't read the instructions. I just assumed I knew what I was doing. And I remember one of the tops didn't fit. And so what happened was I got the ratio wrong, and the stuff didn't cure very nicely. It was a day later. It was supposed to be 4 hours, and it was still sticky after 24 hours. It was a little cool in here. It was 50 degrees. Right now it's 65. So what I did was I redid this with the right ratios, the right mixture of epoxy, and it hardened right up in 4 hours. It's fine. So it's the same thing. The only difference was I didn't attach it to this, I didn't attach it to the aluminum. And I decided that really that there was no reason to do that unless I wanted that side flat and shiny. I'm putting a peel ply on it, so I don't want it flat and shiny. So I just laid it up, let it start to harden, flipped it over, did the other side. So here we are. We're going to take it apart. So the peel ply, green nylon. First time I've used this kind of peel ply. Comes off. It feels like it comes off better than the other peel ply I'm used to using. So what this does is it soaks up extra epoxy, and we end up with epoxy in there. But this, sadly, see, I always get this stuff on rolls, and when you get it from Amazon, which is the cheap way to get it, they fold it, so there's spots here where it's folded. I don't really like that. So that just gets thrown away. Flip it over. Take the other. This has a lot of epoxy. Extra epoxy that came through the peel ply, which is nice, so we don't end up with it. Turn this. So we end up with it in the peel ply instead of in the layup. You don't want it in the layup. You don't want any more epoxy in that layup. You don't want any more epoxy in that layup than what you need. And you can see right here, there's a lot of epoxy that came through the peel ply, and it's just extra weight and actually makes everything weaker. So I wasted a little bit of epoxy, but I don't care. I know that I got it soaked in here real well, and it's all I need. There isn't any extra in there. So this part, now this fiberglass has to be trimmed. See, we attach it to a piece of foam like this. So that needs to be trimmed off. If you want to get up here and see how this trims, these aviation snips work real well because they're kind of serrated, and they'll cut this stuff without a lot of hassle. And that's 2 layers of 10-ounce cloth and epoxy, and I don't really know what I'm cutting. Am I cutting into the foam? I hope I'm not. Tough right there. Part of it is I can't get it in there far enough. There. This is trash. And so what we have is this. And if you were making a nice part, you'd take this edge, you take some sandpaper and knock that off straight. Okay, I've got to trim, what, 4, 5, 6, 7 more spots.
Go ahead.
Got to trim all this. The other thing you could do is if you had a bandsaw, you just run this through the bandsaw. You cut off the loose edges because you don't want that to get caught in a bandsaw. But right up here where the epoxy is, you could just run that through a bandsaw and save all this cutting with the snips. But I don't have a bandsaw, so this is what I'm going to do. After I cut all the hairy stuff off the edges.
Say it again.
After I cut all that hair and everything of the loose glass pieces, I'm just sanding it so it's not so, just burn a little bit so I don't get pieces in me.
Now, is that highly toxic to breathe?
Oh, that probably is. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people wear masks and all this kind of stuff. I suppose I should, although I'm not sanding it. I'm just knocking the edges off so it doesn't. I don't stick myself with it. Just like right there, there's a sharp edge. I don't want to stick a sharp edge to me. Okay, so now we have this, which we started with. It's a 1/2 inch thick foam. We've got this piece of 1/2 inch thick foam with two layers of fiberglass on each side, 10-ounce fiberglass on each side, and it's a twill. It's a cloth, not matte. It's cloth. It's strong stuff. And so now we have this. So we're going to load test it. Not much of a load test, just show see how strong that is. This is a piece, this is 2 layers of fiberglass, just same thing, same kind of epoxy, same everything. And you can see this stuff, it's strong, but it bends. If you were to, it doesn't support any weight. You could make some little things with it. So if you want to come around here, I'm going to show what happens. What do you think happens if I step on this piece of foam? I step on this, how much weight will that hold? I really don't know. I've never stepped on this stuff before, but I don't expect it's going to be much. We'll use this for something else. So here's the same kind of foam, same size, fiberglass on it. And I don't know how much it's going to hold. I'm heavy. It's like a diving board. And this doesn't weigh anything. And this is just lightweight. You made compared to a piece of steel. If I put a piece of steel there and stepped on it, it would just bend in half. Like a piece of steel, like for a car hood. But this doesn't weigh anywhere near as much as a piece of steel. So you can make a car hood, like pull a mold off of a car hood, let's say, and then lay it up like this, put 1 sheet of, or 2 sheets of 10-ounce glass in there, then lay foam all in there, bend it, whatever you had to do to make it shaped like the hood. Put the second layer in there, and that hood would be so strong, so light. You got a fender, a hood, you can make a whole front end of a car, just whatever you want it to look like. The next project I'm going to do with this is my dashboard. Back here, just to give you a little preview. This is the dash pad, or this was the dash pad off the Valiant. And it goes on like this. Steering wheel's over here facing this way. Windshield's over here. And what I'm going to do is cover this with the, we cut some of this. We hot wire cut it so it's 1/8 inch, or no, it's wrong. It's 1/4 inch instead of 1/2 inch. So I'm going to glue this all up and make the dash look the way I want it to look. And make place for the tachometer and whatever else I want in there. And I'm going to cover it with fiberglass. And if I use a peel ply, it'll have this texture look like fabric. And then I'll shoot it the same color as the interior of the Valiant. So that's the next project. Anything else, Kim? What else should I talk about? You were here for this whole process. What do you think? I want to know what you think of the strength of this.
It's pretty strong. You think I could stand on it?
You take
Here,
the camera.
yeah, take the camera. You go get behind the vise so you don't bump yourself.
Okay.
Now, one of the things I noticed is you were leery that it could break when you were so you didn't. Oh gosh,
Okay.
I got a hole in my toe.
You got a hole in
were
your toe.
standing in the center.
Oh, I
You
put
were
both.
doing this
I put
kind of
both.
thing.
Oh, I put both feet next to each other. Okay, yeah. Maybe I didn't do it as good.
So
Okay, try it.
I'm gonna do it, and I'm just gonna.
Okay, there. You're not in the middle. You're off to one side a little bit. Yeah, there. Now you're in the middle. Bounce bounce up and down a little bit.
I can feel it flex, but it, like you said, it's like a.
It's like a diving board.
Yeah. Well, what if I put it?
Yeah. Let's. I don't care if we break it.
Well, I don't want
It's
to.
destructive testing.
I don't want to go flying.
No,
And
okay.
I felt like that's why you were doing that. You don't.
Well, I did it with the pink foam by itself. Yeah, start moving in, see what happens. There, spread over quite a distance, isn't it?
That's all 140 pounds of me.
I would weigh more than that.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, you take the camera. I'll get in the middle with 1 foot.
Okay, but whoa. Don't get too crazy.
Watch the crash. You want to watch the crash? Tell me if I'm in the middle.
We'll start on the sides. Work your way in.
Start in the middle. I should probably start the sides.
I'm worried you will lose your balance if you fall from the...
Yeah, this is like the DUI test. Raise your foot up. Okay. There's 195 pounds. Okay, I can't stand here that long because I'm just not steady enough. 69-year-old man couldn't pass a drunk test if I hadn't had a drink in 6 months. Okay, if you're, the old-fashioned fiberglass, the polyester, like, that's what Bondo's made out of. That stuff, Bondo really has an odor. Use it in a closed area, it smells really bad. If you use that kind of the polyester resin, like they used to make Bondo, man, you can't do that in a closed area. You gotta have doors open or do it outside. That's like old-fashioned boat stuff or like 50s Corvettes. But epoxy, I mean, if you get close, you smell some kind of smell, you'll recognize that it's epoxy, but you don't really smell it. It's not an odor that'll drive you out of the room. And you walk 5 feet away, you don't smell it at all. The only time I really smell it is if I take a heat gun and I'm hurrying the epoxy some by bringing it up to 120, 130 degrees, something like that, which doesn't hurt the epoxy at all. Yeah, you're real close. You get the odor of epoxy, but it's not like Bondo where it's terrible. I thought of something else I was going to say. I don't know. Oh, temperature. When I was in Arizona, I did this stuff. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. I was reading there that they said 70 degrees Fahrenheit is what you want to use for this epoxy. And then somebody on there says not over 75 degrees. Wait a minute. I was in Arizona, it was over 120 degrees, and I was doing layup after layup after layup. And I wanted to cure more quickly. And I had my Ford van there, and I pointed it south, big windshield, and I put a piece of wood on the dash. And these were small parts. Every part I do the layup, I'd go set it on the piece of wood in the van and close the door. And that van was probably, you can imagine, in Arizona, 120 degrees ambient air temperature with the sun on the windshield, it's probably 150, 160 or something in there. And I was cycling those parts about every 20 minutes. They were cured enough to come out of the mold. And I remember reading somewhere, I was just looking for it, but I couldn't find it. But at some university, they were making sections of a rocket fuselage. It was a project, and they were using the same epoxy. And it seems to me they had an autoclave like 300 or 400 degrees or something. They were cycling the parts very quickly. I don't know if I'd want to try 400 degrees, but when I heat gun something, and then I take one of those little temperature guns that has the laser, I go like I was doing that with this part, and I was seeing, I don't know, 120 degrees on it, which doesn't bother me at all because I used to work with those ambient air temperatures with no problems. So temperature will speed it up. This part it was cured in 3.5 hours. But now that was yesterday.
So don't use the polyester because it stinks. I was thinking.
Polyester, if I was going to make a mold and I wanted it to be cheap, get some real thick mat, open up the doors on a nice day, yeah, polyester's cheap. It'll cure quickly. But you could probably make a good mold, but it's not going to make a good part.
But you can't put the polyester over that foam because it's
No.
styrene. It'll melt that foam.
Polyester will melt this in a second. That's another thing I read. I read all this stuff on the internet, and people answer questions like that. I don't know where they get the answers. They pull it out of their ass. Somebody said you can't put epoxy on styrene. It'll melt it. No, it will not melt styrene. It's meant for that. Oh, the other thing is you can't put Bondo over. You can't put polyester over epoxy. You cannot put Bondo over it. But you can put epoxy over Bondo or over epoxy sticks to just about anything except wax or nylon, like that nylon peel ply, or there's some other things that are like that epoxy won't stick to. But epoxy will stick to steel. It'll stick to aluminum. It'll stick to polyester, old polyester layups. Epoxy will stick to just about anything, but polyester won't stick to epoxy. It might stick there, but it's not going to stay. It's going to be weak and it's going to fall off. So don't ever use Bondo on top of epoxy.
Okay, now, what about resistance to the environment, like heat or resistance to like oil? Like, say, if you're going to use this in a car, it has to have some resistance to heat and oil.
I wouldn't worry about oil on it. If I knew that it was going to be an environment with oil, I'd lay it up on a sheet of aluminum so it was smooth like this, so it'd be easy to wipe off. This is only going to take so much heat. The epoxy, I know the epoxy will take up to like 400 degrees or something. This brand, and you can buy epoxies that are high heat epoxies that'll maybe they'll take up to 800 degrees, something like that. But this won't take that. So you know, the styrene foam, you're not going to have anything in the car unless it's up against the exhaust. You know, you get something up against the exhaust, you need to make it out of steel or stainless or something, not this. But I built so many airplane parts out of the structural parts out of this that have to take loads in the air. There's a lot of airplanes flying around that have wings made out of this stuff.
And what?
Be here for 20 years. Never have. The new Boeing 787 and the Airbus 380 are both. They don't use fiberglass so much. They use carbon fiber, but it's the same kind of structure. And you know, they just had that I don't know if I should talk about this. They just had that A350 accident. What the heck started the fire? I don't remember. Oh, they hit it. It was in Japan. They hit another aircraft. It was at night. An aircraft taxied in front of them. They hit the aircraft. The airplane caught on fire. They got everybody out of it. The fire didn't penetrate the fuselage right away because the layups kept the fire from, like aluminum. It'll melt the aluminum. It took a while for that fire to get inside, and they got everybody off that airplane. It was fully involved. Everybody got off that airplane. I don't think there were any injuries. If there were, they were minor. They weren't burns. And so then they couldn't get the airplane out. The fire department had a hard time getting the fire out, but it was slow getting into the fuselage. You can read about that. It's all over the internet. You can read about that.
Yeah, and we're talking about jet fuel.
Talking about jet fuel and huge fire, a huge fire. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm not so worried about heat with this. Like I said, I keep it away from the exhaust. Or if, let's say you have a floor. Let's say you make a complete car out of this stuff. You have a floor. Yeah, put a stainless shield where the exhaust is, or where the muffler is. Like they do on every car that has a catalytic converter. They have a shield because it gets hot inside.
Yeah, because even if the metal doesn't melt, the carpet will...
Carpet right on the other side, yeah. So they put shields.
And then this is going to be insulating. Whatever structure you make with this, it's going to have a real insulation value compared to metal.
This is an insulator. That's what it's made for. So now you got something that's structural that's also an insulator. That was kind of fun standing on that, wasn't it? You didn't know 4 sheets of fiberglass and foam could be so strong.